Dun, 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 dun. We're on hole number 6 of the 2020 Community Cup. We're in Monday's practice round in the rookie division, and today has been a very productive day. I've tanked a couple shots. Last hole, I didn't hit a perfect drive, but I ended up in the fairway. In my first practice round, I tanked on hole number 2. I recovered on this account with hole number 2, and I was able to get out there and get the eagle on hole number 2. But it's been a very productive day. I'm getting a lot of good stuff for my notes for where I started off my base notes, where I started off last night, to what my notes are going to be like at the end of today. They're going to be totally different. I mean, I know now what clubs to bring, and I know what balls to bring, and I've started to learn a few things about the wind. Hole number 6. What is hole number 6? This is that big par 5 that we hardly ever get to play. I love this hole. And it is hole number 7. Now, one of the things I saw today when I was playing was I talked about it before the video, like landing zone. Like I was shooting for this area right out here so that I have this shot coming in, and my opponent had hit it more out here and they had this shot coming in. And I almost liked my opponent's spot better. And let me tell you why. Here's the green, here's the flagpole, and everything's going downhill. And so where I'm coming in at the green is like this right here, where you're kind of engaging this downhill and the slope is affecting your ball. And so it's not just, so think about it. If you're on a slope and you roll a ball out there really slow, it doesn't just come to a straight stop. As it comes to a stop, gravity's pulling it down and it's wanting to float off to the left. And it's like you can always be just a little teeny bit off, because if your speed's a little bit different this time than it was last time, you may. And when we're out on the real golf course, like you hit through the break. So you hit a ball and you actually hit it just a little too fast, and you looked at it and you were like, hey, this breaks to the left. But when you hit it just a little too fast and you actually hit it through the break, and the ball ends up going off to the left. Or you hit it a little slower than you anticipated and it picks up the break a little faster and ends up a little bit to the right. But from this angle out here, my opponent was coming up at it where the flagpole's here and everything's downhill, and they were coming at it from this angle. So they were coming at it where they were going up the hill, and their speed is less affected by the break. So it's going to travel truer. And if you get your trajectory right and you make a great wind adjustment, it's in my mind, it will have a tendency to want to go more straight towards the cup, because as it starts to slow down, it's already going up the hill. So gravity's not going to affect it as it starts to float down the hill. So I'm not too sure that my opponent's spot, and I think they just popped it out there. They weren't thinking about trajectory going into the cup, but I almost liked their spot better. So I'm going to try, because normally when I'm on this hole, I just lay it up really close out here and it puts my red line for my sniper with a katana so that I have plenty of room at minimum club to work this shot. But I'm almost thinking I'm going to try out here. So I'm going to try and dig out here a little bit more. Question is, how do you do that? Well, that's a good question. And I think I have an answer. You can definitely do it with a QB. If you've got a QB, you can definitely get out there with a QB. You can bring, I'm going to bring a katana, but you could bring out a kingmaker so you get a little bit more raw distance and you can apply your topspin. For me, it's going to be a toss-up on whether I should bring, I'd like to use a rock, but I don't know everybody out there has a rock. So the deal is that I did this shot earlier with my QB and it took four topspin and just a little bit of curl or just a little bit of side spin. And I wasn't trying to do anything particular. I was just trying to get up there at the very beginning of that sand. So if you've got a quarterback that's got more topspin than 4, so we got topspin here, we got 5.5, so you could use max topspin. You could get out there a little bit further even with a 2 power ball. I think if I switch to a 3 power ball to try and get more out there with a QB, then I'm going to end up being like that in-between club thing, and I don't want to end up in between clubs. But I'm definitely going to switch to, just in case something happens, and I get too far out there, I want to switch to my Goliath, because the transition between my Goliath and my sniper is non-existent. One instantaneous second you're in sniper, and the next instantaneous second you're in your Goliath. And I don't normally like to play with my Goliath because of that reason. And it is 1.9 per ring, and I got to remember that number because I don't hardly play with my Goliath. So it's 1.9 per ring. It's 55 accuracy. 50 is 2. 55 is 1.9. So I like the fact that it's a pure number. I'm going to bring a katana. But you could do this with it. And I would prefer to use a QB or rock because I would prefer to hit a shot like this. This shot is a 100% pure layup shot. If I could get on in one, and I don't think you can, and Ricky, I don't think there's a max overpower hook shot that you could use to get on in one out there. But if you could get on in one, then yeah, bring out whatever it takes to get on in one. But if you're just laying it up, would you rather lay it up with a 100% accurate club or a club that's 2 or 2.1 per ring? I mean, it's always better because it's always better to bring out your accurate stuff if you can use your accurate stuff. Because I don't need to get all the way up in there. And I don't think even with a 5-power ball, like my red line would be right there. I don't know if I could bounce over that with a 5-power ball and an extra mile 9 to get over that area. I haven't tried that shot. The extra mile 9 is a new deal on some of these holes. We haven't had it before. So like thinking outside the box, like, hey, can that extra mile 9 get us something that we weren't able to get before? Maybe. But my opponent is that's about the spot that I'd like to be in. They're more on this side. They're more to the left of this sand trap right here. And I usually end up on the right-hand side of the sand trap. So I'm going to try and get a little bit more on my opponent's side over in that area. And I want to try and do this miracle thing without having to use any overpower. So 2-7. I'm going to put the forward moving distance back on it. And just to make sure it doesn't overshoot it, I'm going to put a little bit of curl. Hit it 1 ring great to the right. And I kind of split the difference. So I'm like half the sand trap, little more, maybe 2/3 of the sand trap. Instead of coming at it from this angle right here so that I'm engaging this hill face, I want to come out a little bit lower and see if that makes a difference. I think I'd even have to be lower than where I'm at in order to completely get away from that hill face. I'd have to come at it where I was coming at it more like from this angle. And see what I'm talking about where the hill comes in? If you could stay down here on the flat and run it up to the cup, you're going to get a really straight trajectory. And it might stop us from getting that drift. I think a lot of times while we're off on this hole, we're off not because of wind. I think we're getting our wind adjustments right. I think we're off a lot of times because we're getting drift from the course. Gravity's playing a factor. That looks like it might be in the hole. Oh, that was a nice shot. Okay, I'm trying my minimum adjustment here, which is 1.5 per ring, and I'm going to take some wind off. And I'm in my Goliath, so I overshot from down there. So I'm at max club, so it's 1.9 per ring. $1.9 per ring with minus 20%. So that's 4, that's 8, that's 3-2. There's 1-9. There's 3-8, 9, 2-9. Somewhere in that neighborhood right there. We'll see if taking some wind off it. The first time I came through, it looked like I catch that perfect. The first time I came through, it looked like I did need to take some wind off. So I'm trying it this way. And then if I can, did I overpull? I'm going to have to go back and watch that and see. I'm going to have to diagnose that shot. I'm going to have to go back right now. Stop, pause, listen to me first, then go back. Sorry. Go back and look at that shot and do the math. So I was doing a 1.9 per ring and I wanted to take 20% off. So pull out your calculator and take that 3.9 wind and 3.9 times 0.8 and then divide that by 1.9 per ring and see how many rings I should have pulled there or what my pull should have been. And let me do the math here real quick so let me see what I should have did. So I was think it was it 3.9? Let me see if I can get to my calculator. 3.9 times 0.8 is 3.12 divided by 1.9. I should have did a 1.64 ring adjustment. And so I was close. I was probably somewhere in that neighborhood. But if you're just a little off, if I over pulled it just a little bit, then like if I did a 1 3/4, that'd be 1 6/6 or 175. It seemed like I was pretty close to that number. So that's a shot that I'm definitely going to go back and reanalyze exactly what I did, because I noticed that earlier today when I did the full adjustment, I was way off and I needed to actually take some wind off. And so now I'm trying to see if that 20% is the right number, or if I need to do a 25 or a 30. But that's all going to depend on where you're landing. And I kind of like that spot with the Goliath. I would have rather had a 100% accurate club there, because it's much easier to do the stuff. And in order to get in that spot with a 100% accurate club, I really probably could have brought a Quasar. I could have ended up in exactly the same spot on the drive with just a titch of overpower. And then the shot coming in, I would have been more in my sniper as opposed to my Goliath. But I'll have to go back and watch that video and see where my red lines were. So that's a hole right there that I'm still trying to see what's the best way for me to come at it. And if you looked at that hole, when you go back and look at it, you'll see what I'm talking about, where somewhere in here, it starts to drop off to the green. But there's this whole area out here in front that's flat. And so from where I ended up, I was more kind of like where the black spot was. I was like, if we do, here's half and I was more kind of like in this line right here. And my opponent was more out towards the tip. That if you got even further out here, if you really worked your way around the corner, not so that I can open it up so that I can do a regular shot coming in, but so I can still do the rough bump, where I'm doing the rough bump maybe more along this range right here, that when I exit the rough bump to come out and the wind's blowing in this direction, so that'd be a good spot still for the rough bump, that I wouldn't, could I catch it so that instead of engaging any of this hill, I can catch it right where it's still flat and just go straight towards the cup. But I'm gonna have to work this shot. I'm still working this to see what my best opportunity is. I'm not sure if I like the fact that by hitting it a little bit farther down in the hole, I was in my Goliath range, versus if you hit back here in the back and you're just in this spot, you've got a great sniper shot coming at it. I do like the fact that my sniper is 100% accurate. And I think if I switch to, I'll have to look at where the red lines were. If I switch to my Grizzly, it's a shorter, it's quite a bit shorter. Let's see what my Grizzly is. What is my Grizzly? It's 135 versus what? 126. So we're talking about quite a bit of distance. And the 135 is like the red line transition between your wood and your Goliath is 0. So that means I'm going to have a pretty good size red line. So I have to go back and look to see how far away I was from the red line on there. But this hole right here, I think we've got some options on this hole that might increase our odds of getting that, picking up that Albie, as opposed to just coming at it. Because what you're going to see, I think, a lot out there is people are saying, hey, yeah, just hit it out into this area right here. And then when you come up to it, you're going to do this adjustment. You're going to be the thing, and not trying to think a little more critical. Because the thing is that we don't always get Albies on this hole. And it is a tricky hole to make the adjustment to get up to the cup. And if we can find a spot out here where it's like, hey, now we're hitting it on the flat and we're not engaging the hill and it's traveling truer, where our wind adjustment's a lot more effective and we're not having to worry about gravity and we can make more Albies, then I'm all for trying out different stuff on it. I'm not stuck on, hey, it's got to be here. That's what everybody says, it's got to be here. Let's think critical about it. All right. I will quit talking about this hole for now, and we'll just keep working on it the next time we get to it. That's why I practice in these days, and I'm not too concerned about other stuff, because, I'm not super critical on what's going on this. I want to make sure I know like where I'm hitting and what clubs I'm going to be in and what ball I need to bring. All right, that was hole number 6 of the 2020 Community Cup and Monday's practice round in the rookie division. Thanks for watching.